evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is the last 24 hours where several ministers have seen flights taking off from 4 countries and bringing back Indians. Even though these flights have started and Operation Ganga is ensuring that no student is left behind, 17,000 students have been brought back, 3,000 still remain. Yet many people have advised that Kharkiv is the place of action and everybody should leave Kharkiv by 9:30 p.m. India time. But break.
अब आप सब लोगों को सुरक्षित वापस हम लोग भेज रहे हैं और मैं यहीं हूं और अपने सभी दोस्तों को भी कहना प्राइम मिनिस्टर हैज सेड टू मेक श्योर दैट एवरीवन गोज होम सेफली।
खूब आपकी मदद हुई है।
बहुत ज्यादा lovely environment, the cozy environment we get to leave ourselves from the tension which we have gone through in the top border is amazing and mind-boggling.
We have all prayed as a nation for your safe return, and I'm grateful that the prayers of your family and the entire country have been heard.
Bharat Mata ki Jai! Bharat Mata ki Jai!
Those were the 4 ministers, ladies and gentlemen, who have been ensuring not a single student is stranded in Ukraine. In the last 24 hours, 6 flights have brought back over 3,000 students from 4 different nations. Operation Ganga is ensuring no student is left behind in the war-torn country of Ukraine. They have been advised to leave Ukrainian cities and make their way towards the neighboring countries. From Indian authorities and ministers are overseeing the evacuation plan from these countries. Times Network has been on the ground in the countries which are now helping by giving safe passage to these students. Listen in to some of those relieved students who we spoke to and what they had to say.
मेरा नाम परमजीत मंडेरिन है। मैं खारकिव में पढ़ता हूँ। मेरी यूनिवर्सिटी वीएन कराचीना है। मैं आज यहाँ लिविव आया था और अभी मैं क्रॉस किया मैंने पोलैंड से। हम बिल्कुल सेफ हैं और बिल्कुल सेफ हैं। यहाँ हमारी टीम खड़ी है, एम्बेसी हमारी इंडियन एम्बेसी बहुत ज्यादा हेल्प की है हमारी। पोलैंड बॉर्डर से निकलते ही हमारी टीम यहाँ पे है, तो हम घबराने की कोई टेंशन नहीं है। The best.
Mummy, Papa, we are safe now. You can take a relaxed breath.
Yes, journey was like too hard. Like we were when we left from our house, it was we can hear the bombing sounds continuously, but we were wanting to go home, so that's why we left. We went to station and we boarded the train, and then we came here. And when we arrived here, we were like relaxed and we felt like we are in safe hands, so no worry. Now we are both the governments are
Indian government and
Polish government, they are working us, yes, too much, and we will they will provide us hotels now, and we are going to stay in them, and then they will also provide us all the food and all the necessary.
Giving you a flight.
Yes, also flights that are arranged.
And Ukrainian people were also so helpful.
Yes.
They also provided trains free of cost, no cost at all. And when we reached near the border, they gave us sweets, and Poland airport staff also gave us sweets and water. So they are very helpful.
This full-scale invasion of Ukraine seems to be finding a mention in India's election season as well, especially the evacuation effort by the government. From accusing the Modi government of abandoning their citizens and not doing enough in a timely manner, now the opposition is claiming that the centre is using this Operation Ganga as a photo op and nothing else. In Uttar Pradesh today, the Prime Minister claimed that India could conduct such a large-scale rescue operation because we've come from a position of strength now. But that claim was rebutted by Mamata Banerjee, who was campaigning for Akhilesh Yadav and his party. Listen in to the fierce war of words.
आज दुनिया में जो हालात बने हैं वो आप देख रहे हैं। ये भारत का बढ़ता सामर्थ्य ही है कि हम यूक्रेन में फंसे हमारे देश के नागरिकों को वहां से सुरक्षित निकालने के लिए इतना बड़ा अभियान चला रहे हैं।
वो तो उसका एमपी को भेजता है, उसको एमपी को भेजता है पॉलिटिक्स करने के लिए, उसको मिनिस्टर को भेजता है फ्लाइट में भाषण देने के लिए। हमें नहीं करने चाहते हैं, हम ऐसे ही जाने चाहता है। अगर हमको कहे कि इसको बचाने के लिए आप जाओ युद्धों में जाने के लिए भी हम तैयार है। हमारा देश में जितना महिला है उसको भी तैयार करे तो ऑल महिला इज रेडी टू फाइट द बैटल टू सेव द कंट्री। ये नहीं है, वो लोग पॉलिटिक्स ज्यादा करते हैं, काम कम करते हैं।
So the legitimate question on the news hour tonight, who's politicizing the rescue effort? That's the question and the debate on the other side.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
And joining me tonight, Nupur Sharma, National Spokesperson of the BJP, Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow at the ORF, Dr. Sumant C. Raman, Political Analyst, Lokesh Jindal, Leader of the Congress Party. But my first question goes to Dr. Santanu Sen, TMC Member of Parliament, joining me live from Kolkata. And Dr. Santanu Sen, I want to ask you, initially I thought the opposition had a problem with the fact that the government was doing nothing. Now the problem is that why are they sending ministers over there? Why are they clicking pictures over there? Earlier your problem was that children were not happy and they were not getting any help. Now that the children are laughing, smiling, you don't want to see those visuals of the students who have been rescued. What kind of politics is this, Dr. Sen?
Madam, first of all, congratulations for the award that you have been given very recently, which I came to know from the media. I would like to remind you once again, Madam Mamata Banerjee has shown her magnanimity, has shown her statesmanship attitude by saying, I am ready to render my all possible unconditional support. And she has said, if needed, Prime Minister should convene an all-party meeting. But at the same time, we have to recall, we have seen one medical student dying yesterday. He went to fetch some food for himself. Madam Mamata Banerjee has said they should have taken much more preparatory steps and they should have made much more bigger arrangement to fetch all those who got stuck in Ukraine. We have seen our Minister Pralhad Joshi saying, demeaning the medical students, those who are coming from Ukraine after completing their medical studies, they are incompetent. Is it the right time to say this type of words, discouraging words? Instead of that, they should have taken much more positive step to bring all those, they should have arranged for free comeback, free return of those Indians who got stuck in Ukraine. But they are doing this type of politics. They are sending their minister, they are sending their representatives who are giving big bhashan. Why our Indians are still stuck in that war-affected Ukraine? Tell me, why Pralhad Joshi has said this type of derogatory comment?
Let's seek an answer from Ms. Nupur Sharma. Nupur Sharma, the Pralhad Joshi statement, rather insensitive, because these children cannot pass the NEET exam, that's why they go to Ukraine. So what? Because these kids have gone to Ukraine, they deserve to die there? Is that what he wanted to say? You know, it's a legitimate question that's being asked.
Navika, good evening to you, to co-panelists and also to your viewers. At the outset, my condolences to the family of, in his memory, Dr. Naveen. And the young man really did not have to go this way. However, I would like to raise a strong objection. You cannot actually use a national television debate, and I believe this person here is a member of parliament, to peddle fake news. Our parliamentary affairs minister never said that those students who have returned from Ukraine are incompetent. Correct yourself, sir. This is really not the time for cheap politics. He was asked a pointed question, why are so many students going to Ukraine? And he gave a pointed reply, saying they perhaps may not have, Navika, I have not heckled this person who likes to be addressed as a member of parliament, God knows how. Please, sir, have the courtesy, especially right now, when India is making all possible efforts and we are in the midst of a crisis, to ensure that by the data collected in January by India, 19,763 Indians were living, working, studying out of Ukraine. over 17,000 of which have been safely, they've crossed the border of Ukraine. They are either in the 4 or 5 neighboring countries, or they are back safely home in India. So please hold your horses. For that matter, as far as the TMC is concerned, really not the time, but I would like to say this. Your Chief Minister could not ensure safety of 2 junior doctors who a mob of 200 people went into a hospital, rampaged and killed. Let's not forget, a young junior doctor was sent into coma. You could not safely evacuate junior doctors in the city of Kolkata in West Bengal. And here you are talking बड़ापन कर रहे हो यहाँ पे बैठ के कि we would do everything possible if only India was not a sovereign country. Navika, if only India was not a sovereign. No, we all remember, Navika. Have we forgotten 2 junior doctors were actually attacked by a mob of 200 people because they were angry because their victim, was a relative who met with an accident, could not be safe, and they wanted him to be up and fine and running in 24 hours.
Our Chief Minister got attacked at Varanasi this
in a government hospital. A junior doctor was sent into coma because of that. Here you are talking big. Now simply put, if only India was not a sovereign country, West Bengal would have its own diplomatic relations with Ukraine and Russia.
Your BJP has attacked Mamata Banerjee this evening at Varanasi.
On February 25th, in its advisory said, we cannot evacuate our citizens. China, under unbridled pressure from its citizens stuck in Ukraine, has only started today morning to evacuate its citizens. Yesterday, thousands of Chinese citizens stuck in Ukraine started petitioning and appealing, and it's because of angry citizens of China that today China has started evacuating. You know, and this also goes for Mr. Rahul Gandhi. After 17,000 plus people have been safely made to cross the border of Ukraine, today he's asking, what are your plans? Well, I'll tell you what, our plans are more in line than your plans, Mr. Gandhi, when you and your government could not even safely evacuate Indians and foreign nationals in Mumbai in the terror attack when Pakistani foreign nationals came and attacked us. They are much saner and much more secure than you, busy partying in spite of a 3-day terrorist attack in the financial capital of this country. So please stop the politics, as the former Prime Minister Mr. Deve Gowda has said so. In his 3 tweets, he has actually encircled the requirement of a very sane and constructive opposition. None of you have come up with any constructive possible way as to how to ensure that people on the eastern side can be safely evacuated. All you're doing is cheap politics.
Well, Dr. Sumansi Raman, do you think this is time for politics? And do you think Mr. Rahul Gandhi needs to know all the strategic detailed plans, even after the Foreign Secretary last night gave a detailed briefing on where things stood and ministers were sent across to these 4 countries to evacuate Indian students?
Navika, first of all, I want to ask a few questions for which we don't really seem to have answers. The MEA gave a statement saying that 17,000 Indians have been evacuated so far. Now, the BJP spokesperson on this program said 17,000 out of 19,000 have already been evacuated, which means that there are only 2,000 people to be evacuated. Now, where they are getting that number from, how are they getting that number from, is very surprising. Second, there was also a statement made by the government that all Indians in Kiev have been evacuated. Today, there were multiple reports of people on the videos saying that we are stuck in Kiev and we have not been evacuated yet and we are not able to reach the Indian embassy. The third, very, very important point, the number of students who said nobody is answering the phone at the Indian embassy. We are repeatedly calling the embassy, nobody is answering the phone. Is it so difficult for the government to fix this one issue? Set up some kind of a helpline or a hotline so that students are at least able to register that they are in trouble, their location, and hand that information over to the embassy. All we need to do is to search the, go on to Twitter and see the videos of so many students saying that we have been trying to contact the embassy, nobody is answering the phone. Now, I think that this is a serious lapse and that has to be fixed by the government at the earliest. Rescue, what plans are made, what discussions are held with the Russians for safe passage, that is one part of it. But clearly saying that students are unable to reach the embassy on the telephone is something that should be easy for the government to address. I am not going into the politics of it. Neither is the opposition justified at this point in making a political issue out of this, nor is the government justified in taking this as one large PR exercise where each aircraft that arrives in India is met by a minister making a speech which is coincidentally out on ANI within the next 1 hour. So I think that this is an operation where India has done much better in the past. 150,000 people during the Gulf War, and many more, than the 4,000 that we have brought back during the evacuation from Libya. So right. India is not new. India is not new.
Sushant Sareen, do you think all the control rooms are flooded with calls? Do you think there are cases that are possible that they couldn't have gotten through? Some of them even we've passed on. But if so many students,
Navika,
1 minute, Dr. Suman Siraman.
No, how can, wait. Did Nupur Sharma say 17,000 out of 19,000?
That's the statement that's come from the MEA. That's the statement that's come.
1 minute. So there are only, I'll repeat, there are only 2,000 Indians stuck in Ukraine.
The last I heard, the number was 20,000 students, 17,000 back. According to me, the number should be 3,000. But 1 minute, allow me to get the answer to your question. You asked your question. Now wait for the answer. And Mr. Sushant Sareen, I want to ask you the question that has been raised by Suman Siraman. Are we going to focus on a few calls that were missed, or are we going to focus on the fact that a gigantic effort has been put in place to bring back the stranded Indians? Where do you think our emphasis should be?
No, Navika, I think the government is committed to pulling out every single Indian who is out there. Now, it is entirely possible that in operation of this magnitude, under the kind of difficulties which are taking place, there could be some cases in which, either some of the students were stranded in a particular corner of the city from where they haven't been able to be evacuated, or there could be some other problems. So there is that possibility, and I think the government would certainly be looking at pulling out each and every individual to the extent it is humanly possible. It's after all a war zone. It is, and in fact, I never expected it, and I must say that goes to the credit of this government if they manage to get a 6-hour window for students or Indians in Kharkiv. They got the Russians to hold off their operations for about 6 hours so that these kids could come out, or the Indian citizens out there could be evacuated, and I'm sure that opportunity could have been used by anybody else as well to evacuate the city. I think that is creditable. I never expected the Russians to do this. But having said that, look, the point is that, this has become a standard thing. Aadhaar is an excellent thing, but you will pick up 8 or 10 or 100 or 500 cases to actually question the effectiveness of a particular, scheme which the government is taking. There will always be some fallouts. There will always be some people who slip through the cracks. To the extent possible, you have to address that issue. But to debunk the entire effort on the basis of a few people who might still be caught up in a major predicament, I think that's unfair. Number 3, I think the numbers probably, I don't know, but the numbers are not just about students. There are possibly also Indian citizens living in Ukraine, either working out there or whatever, who also have to be evacuated. So maybe the number which is being bandied about of about 18,000 odd students, and that's also not a precise number, could be a little more than 18,000. It could be 20, 22,000. I don't have the exact number. So maybe that is where this thing is, that could be a possible explanation, but I can only speculate on.
Well, Lokesh Jindal ji, does that satisfy you? Does that satisfy the Congress? Yes, or do you think condemning the BJP and the government is something that is your birthright?
Yes. See, I would focus more upon the disease rather than the symptoms. Let me just tell you that there has been an increase in rescue operations since 2015. We saw Rescue Rahat, Operation Maitri, Setu Samudram and Vande Bharat mission and all. But if you look at the root cause of all this, it is Indian Immigration Act 1983. Now, which works on a system where there are three divisions. One is called as the Rapid Response Cell, other is the Protector of Emigrant, and another is the Protector General of Emigrant. Now, the Rapid Response Cell only acts as a reactionary mechanism. And if we talk about Protector of Emigrant, it works under the Protector General of Emigrant, which is basically an issuing authority for registration certificate to those who are involved in manpower supply. Now, this is a colonial legacy. We are promoting emigration, but we are not providing any form of safeguard to the immigrants. Even the draft bill that was moved by the government in 2021, it contained chapter 7, which talks about welfare, but nowhere it is mentioned that there would be a full-fledged agency which shall talk about safety, security, evacuation, rescue of the immigrants who are living abroad.
Your point being, are you discussing the bill here?
My point is, it's gross mismanagement. Wait. I'm coming to that, ma'am. What I'm saying is there gross mismanagement, and while the operation is being conducted, it is being politicized. The government...
Who's politicizing it?
Correct. And put
Who's politicizing it? After the detailed briefing by the government, by the Ministry of External Affairs, by the Foreign Secretary, why does Mr. Rahul Gandhi have to ask elementary questions that have already been answered?
It is claiming that it is having a 56-inch ka seena, whereas what we see is the Indians are getting killed in Ukraine and the government is simply taking the credit, whereas
Nupur Sharma, jawab dijiye. 56 का सीना, 56 का सीना वर्सेस 56 सवाल का ट्वीट. जवाब दीजिए.
You just answer one question. Who did you ever evacuate? When the two major evacuations happened, Congress was not in power. So please, very easy, and since
you talk about 2011 evacuation, you talk about 2006 evacuation, rather the largest evacuation that was done, it was done by the Congress regime. Don't forget the Gulf evacuation, madam. Please,
you could not evacuate in 2008.
Do not waste, absolutely not. The greatest evacuation that was done, it was done during the Gulf War, where 1,17,000 people were evacuated.
Lokesh ji, calm down. You asked a question. You asked a question. The lady is representing a party which needs to answer it. Allow her to answer it.
Please. All ears for you, please.
Almost over 6 decades. They were sitting for almost over 6 decades. They were sitting pretty over a legislation where they found it not fit enough to actually do away with. Today you find the opportunity, and I challenge you, who did you even evacuate from your own Indian border, from your own geographical territory? In Mumbai, I have a direct question. They were big hotels. Your Home Minister was busy changing his clothes multiple times and doing PCs. I'm sorry to say, we saw how the government of the day failed then. In spite of the fact that you were given intelligence by the Gujarat government, then Chief Minister and now Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji. Let's not forget what happened in the past. The reality is, Mr. Devegowda has schooled Rahul Gandhi and all of you properly today. Now, since I want to ask Mr. Sumansi Raman's question particularly, because he asked a pointed question, I have my doubts about the number of people evacuated. Well, the fact is, 15 flights have landed. 15 flights are due to land in the next 24 hours, and 9 flights are due to land on Friday, March 4th. I'm sure they're not coming empty, and I'm sure they're not coming from within India or maybe some other country. If you feel that some calls went unanswered, did you follow up with the students whose calls went unanswered, whether they have been safely evacuated now? You have to understand, as Mr. Sushant rightly said so, for Russia to give us a 6-hour window, this is not the first time, Mr. Sushant, second time, for the Indian embassy in Ukraine to repeatedly give you a timeline, please evacuate, use all means possible, for us to repeatedly talk. Thanks, Navika, for telling us. Second time Putin has spoken to our Prime Minister, for us to speak to 5 neighboring countries and ensuring these students don't, or anybody living in Ukraine does not even require a visa. For even lost passports, if you heard the MEA clearly,
Madam, can I reply? Can I reply?
And even now, the Prime Minister is engaged in a meeting, high-level meeting, to find out more solutions to bring back all the Indians and not to leave anybody behind in Ukraine. It is a war-torn area. We need to do what we need to do, but what we really need to do is stop criticizing, at least at the moment when the operation is on, because there are families waiting back home, there are students there facing adverse situations. We need to give them hope and strength. We don't need to give them the complete hullabaloo that's going on back home, because we can't find common ground between political parties in India. Well, on that note, thanking all my guests for joining me on debate number 1.